Hello, crafty friends, and welcome back to my channel. So, if you ask me what my favorite card making technique is, I would definitely say it's the blackout technique. I have used this in so many different projects to create beautiful, vibrant card fronts. Now, this technique takes embossing to a whole new level by utilizing the debossed side of an embossed panel. I think this is also one of the easiest way to create cards if you plan on mass producing cards with bold, eye-catching focal points and a striking background. Well, before we take a look at the card project that I created today, I would really appreciate if you could take a minute to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon so that you get notified every time I post a new video. Well, I did create two cards for today's video, but I didn't realize my phone battery died at some point. So unfortunately, I don't have footage of how I colored the second butterfly card. However, the techniques I used for both the cards are exactly the same. For my first card, I'm using the Brilliant Budding Floral Embossing folder, which comes with a coordinating die to cut out one of those flowers. However, for this card, I'm sticking just with the embossing folder to create a beautiful textured background. Now, this embossing folder was part of the latest Rain or Shine release by Simon's Stamp. I love this floral image, and I have created a card before using the same technique, but in slightly different colors. Now the card panel I'm using here is an 80-pound white cardstock. Before running the paper and the embossing folder sandwich through my die cutting machine, I like to mist the paper slightly with water. This step helps loosen the paper fibers and helps prevent any tearing or cracking, giving it a smoother and more durable result. Now take a look at how beautiful that embossed panel is. Well, we will be using the debossed side of the image. I will be using my Spectrum Noir Tri-Blend markers in this beautiful orange shade. Now, I love using these tri-blend markers for these types of projects because these markers include the different shades of color in the same pen, which makes adding depth and shadow so much more easier. There's no need to search for matching shades in your collection. I added vibrant greens to the leaves and stems to balance the warm tones of my flowers. Now, with the blackout technique, I like to use my alcohol markers. Well, that is a personal choice, but you could definitely use watercolors or ink blending or even pencil colors to add colors to these focal point images. So basically, all you're doing is coloring into these debossed images. Well, at this point, it does look a little incomplete and not very precise to the point, but trust the process. Once you swipe your ink pad over this colored image to create that blackout look, you will see what exactly I'm talking about. Now I'm using simple greens, which I feel matched perfectly with that vibrant orange on our flowers. After coloring all those debossed image, now we can get to the fun part, that is creating our blackout effect. Now here if you'll see, the picture does look a little incomplete, but it will be absolutely gorgeous once we swipe our ink pad. To do this, I swiped my ink pad across the panel, ensuring that only the raised area of the embossing were covered. For this card, I'm using the Simon's Stamp Positively Saturated ink in the shade Woodsy, which is a rich dark brown that complemented perfectly with the orange tones on the flowers absolutely beautifully. Well, I prefer using darker shades of ink to swipe on my panel as I feel that gives a more vibrant look to our card front. Well, here I am very lightly swiping my ink pad over the paper because I love the wood grain like pattern that the swiped ink gives on our background panel. Now, if you want a more dense look, I would suggest swiping your ink pad with a little more force so that all of that ink is absorbed by the papers and no streaks are formed. That will give you a more plain and cleaner look. But if you want a more textured and pattern look, I would suggest swiping the ink pad very lightly and gently, just like I'm doing here. Also, I like to make sure that I'm swiping my ink pad in one direction only to give that beautiful wood grain look. But you could definitely do it the way you want. There is absolutely no right or wrong way to do this. Now, after you run your ink pad over the panel, you will notice there are some areas where you must have missed to color on the edges of those embossed images. That would be an easy fix. All you need to do is bring back the same exact colors and fill in the white areas to get a more seamless look. Now that our panel is ready, I like to give it a minute or two before the ink completely dries. Because as you saw that I swiped my ink pad a couple of times, so the paper is quite saturated and wet at this point of time. So I would let the color settle while we can go and work on our sentiment or any other embellishments that we wish to add on our card front. To complete the card, I die cut a simple sentiment from the Simon's stamp Everyday Easy Sentiment strips, keeping it clean and elegant. Now this sentiment sheet comes in a pack of 4. Simon's stamp also has coordinating dies to cut out all of these sentiment pieces all at once. So if you're someone like me who's not a big fan of cutting out sentiment strips using your paper trimmer, I would definitely recommend this step. As a final touch, I added some gold hologram sequins from This Calls for Confetti to give the card a bit of sparkle and shine. I'm really happy with how gorgeous this panel turned out. The blackout effect with the vibrant colors and simple sentiment creates a striking design, and the sequins add just the right amount of glimmer. For card number 2, I used the Fantasy Butterflies embossing folder, which also comes with the coordinating dies that we will be using later to complete the look. This embossing folder is perfect for creating an intricate butterfly filled background that adds so much texture and detail to your card design. I started by embossing with an A2 size cardstock panel with this gorgeous butterfly pattern, and the level of detail in this design is absolutely stunning, and I decided to go all in with some vibrant rainbow colors. Of course, you could easily use a single color palette if you are aiming for a more subtle look, but rainbow shades really bring out the butterflies to life. After finishing the coloring on the debossed side, I wanted to add a bit of depth and detail. I swiped the positively saturated ink in the shade charcoal across this embossed area. The dark ink creates a very whimsical blackish hue that really enhances the wings of the butterflies, giving them a beautiful and striking contrast against the vibrant colors. Take a look at the two panels that we created today. The first one features a very clean and simple and elegant floral pattern against a wood grain background, while the second showcases a stunning rainbow butterfly backdrop with glittery centers made using glitter cardstock from Your Paper Insider. I kept the sentiment on both these card fronts minimal as I wanted to highlight the backgrounds, designs, and colors. I mounted these panels onto white card bases, and now we can call these cards complete. I'm really happy with how easy these were to create and how vibrant and colorful they've turned out. Thank you again for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed watching the video, and I really encourage you to give this technique a try yourself. Well, all the supplies that I used in today's video will be linked down in the description box below. All the links are affiliate links, which means that if you shop using one of my links, I get a small commission at no cost to you guys. Thank you again for joining me today. Until next time, stay safe.